Most folks outside the state of Michigan probably have never heard of our little town called Alpena. Well, this is where I run a hardware store, right in the heart of town, Alpena, Michigan. We're mighty proud of it. I think if you ever visit Alpena, you'll find that it's a typical American town. Typical, that is, except for one thing, our neighbors. Now, our neighbors are down the road a ways from this park. Believe me, I think they've got the answers to a lot of things we've been reading and hearing. I think you've read of the atomic bomb tests, the hydrogen bomb, and all the super scientific development that's been going on. Well, I have too, and it isn't very nice to think that someone someday might be dropping disaster on us from up there. But that's how it stands today, whether we like it or not. That's a new frontier, an area that holds a danger to our homes, our business, our very lives. That frontier up there isn't a whole lot different, though, than the one George Washington and the men of his time faced. They had uncertainty, unknown threats. Or take Daniel Boone, the explorer, trailblazer, plagued with attacks from the Indians. Or take the Minutemen up in the New England area. They had both red men and white men springing on them from the wilderness, suddenly descending upon them. The only difference, I suppose, is that the Minutemen of 300 years ago had their first line of defense all around them. Today, you and I have our first line of defense up there in the sky. These neighbors that I mentioned that we have here in Alpena might be compared to the Minutemen of long ago, only now I'd call them Minutemen of the air. And who are they? Well, like the Minutemen of 300 years ago, they're citizen guards, citizen airmen. They have a big training base at the airfield here near Alpena. Air National Guardsmen from Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, and several other states come here during the summer months. Maybe you know some of these men in your community. Maybe you're one of them. They represent a wide cross-section of men, for they come from many walks of life. They're bus drivers, accountants, industrial workers, or maybe they're farmers, road builders, mechanics, all sorts of men. They're the ones who are doing something about guarding our nation and our homes against a frontier we Americans have never faced until now, the sky. Now, I never paid much attention to what the Air National Guard is until I noticed one Sunday that the units from Ohio had arrived for their 2 weeks of summer training. They attended several of our churches here in town, for they are God-fearing, like the Minutemen of old. During the next few days, I saw a number of their planes as they flew over Alpena, and I realized that these fellows knew their business. On the corner across the street from my store, I was amused at the way the fellows would gather around the popcorn stand, or should I say, around the two little girls at the stand. One day I saw two of the boys there, and when one of them pulled out his little black book, there was no question these fellows knew their business. At the beach a few days later, I saw these same boys and the popcorn girls, and it looked like this might get to be a double romance. The two boys got to talking together about the Air Cadet training program and how you get to be a pilot. I heard them say that if you belong to the Air National Guard, you can go to an Air Force school for pilot training free of cost, and fellows between 19 and 26 are in the acceptable age range. It's a big day for the Air Cadets when they receive those silver wings, the symbol of the finest pilots in the world. This young fellow said that when he received his silver wings, Governor Lauschie of Ohio made the presentation. By this time, I was getting mighty interested in just what the story is on these Air Guardsmen. And when the civic leaders and businessmen of Alpena were invited to the open house and the review day at the field, I was one of them. The general in command of the Ohio Air Guard personally showed us a few of the pieces of equipment and then took us to the reviewing stand for review day ceremonies. Several officers and generals arrived from the National Guard Bureau in Washington, and the top general for all National Guard activities in Ohio flew in especially for the ceremony, which was quite colorful and impressive. It was quite a sight to watch so many of these citizen guards or citizen airmen assembled on the huge airfield. It was right here that I got my first impression of these men as being the Minutemen of the air. For I could well imagine that our ancestors had similar training programs for their men, so that they could ward off sneak attacks which threatened them from all sides. A special citation was awarded to several of the Air National Guardsmen who had achieved outstanding performance. And after a few brief speeches, the Ohio Air Guard pilots flew their planes in formation over the review ground. Somehow, all of this made me curious. I wanted to know more about these modern Minutemen. On my way back to the special bus, I saw the little popcorn girls. Open house was an invitation and they hadn't overlooked it. Or was it the other way around? Anyway, they were the same boys and girls, and the romances appeared to be progressing. Because I was so interested in seeing more of what these Air Guardsmen do, one of the officers made arrangements for me to visit again the next day. I was quite surprised, especially since I thought I had seen so much at the open house. The operations are huge and involved. I just never thought it took so much to get an airplane off the ground. As a matter of fact, just about every service you can name that you have in your community is duplicated at the training base. The hospital or dispensary, for instance, is fully equipped and staffed with men trained in medical matters. Crews of citizen airmen are needed to provide the communication circuits that keep the schedules moving swiftly and efficiently. This actual field work gives the men practical experience to round out the training they receive at home during the rest of the year. When we arrived on the field, there was a portable refreshment stand, Field PX unit they call it. My officer friend pointed out 2 father and son airmen he saw there. Many fathers and sons have found the Air Guard a common interest they both enjoy. I would say it speaks well for an organization when a father wants his boy to become an active partner in it. Living quarters are really first rate, and I could see that these Ohio men were a lively bunch. While all the activity, men, and equipment seemed confusing to me at first, I soon saw there was a definite pattern to all operations. There was a period of flight preparation for the planes, also for the pilots, and then the actual flying of the planes for target shooting and scoring. In the flight preparation for the planes, the airmen who liked mechanical work of various kinds certainly were having a field day. They were working on 2 types of planes, the propeller-type planes, Mustang, and the jet engine planes. Being a hardware merchant myself, these mechanical things held a great interest for me, so I looked closely as we toured around. The preparation of targets is a daily operation. These targets are pulled along behind tow planes so that pilots can shoot at the targets and develop greater accuracy in aerial gunnery. For purposes of identification, each plane carries bullets which are painted certain colors. When the bullets pierce the target, color stains are left on the nylon mesh. These can be examined back down on the ground to see how each pilot makes out in his aerial target practice. Preparations are also made for the targets used in air-to-ground shooting. When the framework is covered, the target cloth is placed out in the open field used for such gunnery practice. Yes, the services, the maintenance, and the preparation required each day to keep those planes flying was enormous. But the sum total of all the efforts was to put a pilot up there in the sky. A pilot who can make his plane spit fire and guard us effectively on this new and endless frontier. We took time out for lunch at the mess hall, and man, what food that was. Those airmen certainly are well fed, and there was plenty of it. They told me that over 2,600 Ohio men were fed here every day. Total, 7,800 meals a day. And while we ate, I heard about another camp in Ohio, along the shores of Lake Erie, where National Guard anti-aircraft units from Pennsylvania and Ohio were training. These units coordinate with the Air Guard men to further increase the effectiveness of our sky protection. A pilotless target plane is launched and controlled by radio, so that the men can test their accuracy and ability in shooting down a real plane. Like the Air Guard men, the anti-aircraft units do regular training each week at their hometown location, usually at their armory. By the time they arrive at the summer training base, they have developed good coordination and speed. When we had finished lunch, I was anxious to know a little more about the men who fly these aircraft, the pilots. What are they like? A good many questions were in my mind as I watched these men. I could see that they are well equipped, having such things as pressure suits for high-speed jet flying, planes which are kept in tip-top shape, and plenty of fine training. At their briefing sessions before each flight, you can see the eagerness and enjoyment in their faces. But why do these men choose to fly? And why do they choose the Air National Guard? They told me very simply. First, there's a job to be done in providing an air guard for our homes and our nation. They are real patriots. Second, they love to fly, and with the Air National Guard, they are able to fly some of the best equipment made. At the same time, they can continue to lead a normal civilian life at home. Many said if they weren't in the Air National Guard, they wouldn't be able to afford to fly. So to these pilots and the airmen who back them up, it really isn't all work. They enjoy flying, and what's more, they get paid for it. And many of them will draw retirement pay. Now I watched the results of the training these pilots and airmen had received. All year, they had trained a few hours each week at their hometown airfields. Here at the summer training base, all the training and practice was being put into actual use. Many of the airmen were new, but they were learning new skills and the importance of dovetailing group effort. The planes were ready, the pilots were at the controls, the target plane was up there towing the target, and the ground targets were ready at the gunnery range. Needless to say, after all the shooting is over, the pilots want to see the results. Check the targets. Look for those little marks left by their painted bullets. With citizen airmen and pilots like these, men who are our neighbors and friends, we can have a great confidence in our present-day world and in the future days to come. In every state of the Union, Air Guardsmen like these Ohio men have developed a wonderful tradition, increased their income, developed leadership in their men, and are providing the vital air guard for our new sky frontier. These are today's frontiersmen. These are our Minutemen of the air.